Hello there, you are very welcome to the Off the Ball League of Ireland podcast. My name is Jamie Moore, you're very welcome as always. Coming up over the next hour or so, we're going to be joined in studio in just a second by Sean Russell, who plays for Limerick but has a very serious knee injury at the moment and is having issues with the club in terms of his expenses being paid and also the club paying the sports surgery clinic for the operation. Sean will be here in just a second. We're then going to welcome two League of Ireland legends into the studio, Mark Quigley and Stephen Maher. Mark Quigley is now the player manager of Sheriff, while Stephen Maher plays in midfield. Two men who've won league titles, FAI Cups and more, and also grew up playing football on the streets of Dublin. And do you remember Jack Keeney, the 20-year-old Sligo Rovers midfielder who scored that unbelievable free kick on Saturday past Shamrock Rovers Alan Manis to win the game for his team, and the goal being compared to Leo Messi has had over 1 million views online over the last week, and Jack will join us to tell us exactly how he did it. That's all coming up, but firstly I'm very happy to welcome Sean Russell to the studio. Sean, how are you?
Good, thanks Jay. Yeah, apart from the knee at the moment everything's good.
Yes, now you have the people can't see, or if you're listening they definitely can't see, but a massive knee brace on. You've come in here on crutches. Tell us about the very serious injury you picked up recently. Yeah,
so I picked the injury up playing against Athlone. It was just an impact injury coming together with another player, and it was a multiple ligament injury. So it was the ACL that I'd done damage to, the LCL, and then there was also some hamstring damage as well. So it's been a difficult few weeks since it's happened, obviously, and it's starting to feel a slight bit better, and I'm back on the move again. But again, it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, now these injuries to the ACL are becoming, much more heard about in football and much more common, and there's different, people trying to do studies into what's causing them and that sort of stuff. But it's fair to say it's one of the most serious football injuries you can get.
Yeah, it is definitely. I mean, for the period of time you're out alone, it's difficult. But the combination of injuries that I got made it even more difficult. With the LCL coming off the bone and the hamstring as well, it's made it really difficult in regards to recovery and stuff like that. So I'm still waiting to go in for the ACL surgery itself. I only had my first op done a few weeks ago because of the damage that was done. I couldn't get them both done at the same time. So it's just a case now of getting the second one done, and then it's on the road to recovery after that.
When did this injury happen?
So it was going back to the end of April.
Okay.
So it'll be the 29th, I think, in around 29th.
Okay, April or March?
Of March, sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies, March.
Yeah, so we're now kind of in the first week in May. So you're about kind of 5-6 weeks post-injury, and it's fair to say you've had an interesting few weeks in getting the operation, trying to get physio, and then trying to speak to Limerick in terms of the plan was and should be for the club to pay for the operation with the hospital. But that hasn't happened, or at least it hasn't happened in full, and you're now waiting to have your second operation, and again you're unsure on when that's going to be and if the club are going to pay for that.
Yeah, so I'm fortunate enough that the physio that I have down in Limerick I've known for a couple of years, haven't played for them, and Barry's been very good to me in regards to getting me into surgery, the surgery clinic up in Dublin, which was the Tuesday morning after the injury happened. I went ahead with a consultation that morning. For me, the kind of issues arose then when I went in for the consultation, having spoke to the club with regards to payment for the consultation and getting seen to. First off, there was issues there with regards to that payment, and I wasn't told by the surgeon when I sat down that I needed to get in and get surgery on the injury ASAP because of the nature of the injury. It was a bad one, and it needed to be repaired as soon as possible for any chance of recovery, even for my own well-being. He said with the risks it can cause going forward, it needed to be done as soon as possible. So I went in the following week for the surgery, and thankfully it went ahead so soon. But that was down to the work from my own physio, get me in the door as soon as possible, and the surgeon Ray in the sports clinic as well was excellent. But the issues that I've been having have been away from the actual work itself, and regarding payment and stuff, it's been really difficult and stressful for me. It began with probably getting the actual appointment a week from my consultation, and I notified the club with regards to payment of the surgery fee, and I was told it would be taken care of. Having experienced the consultation issue, I wasn't too confident in the fact that it would have been taken care of. So I looked for some assurance from them with regards to how the payment was going to go ahead, and I just wanted to focus on the surgery itself. And it ended up getting up to the night before the surgery and being told that from the club that they hadn't got the funds for my surgery to go ahead. So with regards to getting back playing, it's obviously it's massive, but for my own well-being, being told the night before that the surgery wasn't going to go ahead because of the funds weren't there from the club, but also the fact that I'd been told the week before from the surgeon himself that for my own well-being, it was highly important that this went ahead. It was a stressful enough period. Fortunately enough, I went ahead to the clinic the next morning, having spoke to the club. They'd sent up a couple of checks, and unfortunately, the surgery went ahead with the confidence that the checks would go through, and they didn't go through. So, the checks had bounced, and at the moment, I'm just kind of not really receiving any treatment because those are outstanding,
So, what type of cost are we talking here?
So, I believe the cost was there was this fee for the surgery and for the surgeon himself. So it would have been $5,700 in total.
Okay, so, and $1,200 of that was paid by one cheque?
It was indeed, yes. So there was 2 cheques sent, and the fee of the $1,200 was paid. So there's an outstanding fee of $4,500 there, which unfortunately has been billed to myself because the clinic haven't been able to get in touch with the club themselves. They haven't got any response from them regarding the cheque bouncing. So they've had no option other than to get in contact with me regards to the payment. Okay,
and just to, I suppose, explain the scenario here, that Sean is an amateur player with Limerick, not a professional player. Therefore, he can't be helped by the Professional Footballers Association of Ireland, the PFAI, who last year, when 2 players playing for Bray, Hughie Douglas and John Sullivan, had similar issues, the PFAI were able to pay for their operations, and then the players were able to seek the money back from the club and give it back to the PFAI. But because Sean is an amateur, it means that he's not represented by the PFAI, and it means that they can't help. So that's part 1 of the story. Part 2 of the story is that Sean arrived at a sports surgery clinic on the morning of the operation, unsure if the operation would actually take place, because as any business would, they want the money in advance. And I've had experience of this before with other players where, the operation is so expensive that the club, or not the club, but the hospital wants the money in advance. So that's part 1 of the story. And part 2 of the story is I've seen a letter which the hospital sports surgery clinic Santry have sent to Sean to his home address, asking him for the balance of the money, saying that the cheque didn't clear. And that's where it's at now. You're waiting on word from Limerick, who are in the process of a proposed takeover at the moment, for them to give the money. And the way these things work is that the club pays for the operation, they then claim it back through their insurance, and that takes a period of time for it to come through. And because the club, a lot of players were owed outstanding wages, and in your case outstanding expenses, they were paid for March, but you're waiting for the money for April, and that would indicate that the club don't have the money to pay for the operation at the moment, and they can't get it back from the insurance company because it takes a period of time.
I would imagine it's something along the lines of that. I haven't really received a lot of communication in regards to the funds and why they haven't been paid. To be honest, I haven't really received a lot of communication at all, other than through the manager himself, who's been trying to inform me and do the best he can do for me. But it's just from elsewhere within the club, I haven't really received much information regarding payment. But from being told that they hadn't got the funds and the late wages, you would assume that it was that the funds just are not there. So it doesn't give me a lot of confidence in the fees being paid,
And after a serious operation, you need to, almost be with a physio immediately to get treatment. And again, the opportunities for you to see a physio on a regular basis haven't been there. Why?
So I've been at enough clubs probably in the league and abroad where generally speaking at a professional level, again we're talking about the highest level in Ireland here, where I'm playing, it's generally you would have a physio at each training session. So I mean it gives you access to a physio probably 3 times a week. If you're part-time, you're probably still training 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. With a game day probably being 4 times a week, you'd have access to a physio, so you'd be able to go and get some rehab work done and stuff like that. But at the moment I'm having to pay for my own physio, and I'm trying to balance working a full-time job as well, so I'm limited to kind of 1 session a week at the moment financially, and again, paying for your own physio at a professional club, it's not ideal, but also the fact that I probably do need to see the physio more than once a week in the early stages of rehab, it's meaning that I'm having to do my own sessions at home, and it's difficult because at the first stage of rehab, it is very painful with regards to the actual sessions, and you're kind of trying to get movement back in the knee and stuff like that, and you're having to force it a little bit. And it helps when you're with a physio because you've got confidence in them doing it. It's their line of work. But when you're on yourself in your own bedroom trying to do rehab sessions a couple of weeks after surgery, it is difficult, you know.
And again, the reason for this is because not just the players were owed outstanding monies, but the staff, or some of the staff as well, and you can't expect a qualified physiotherapist to work for free. And even though you've said, you know, how good the Limerick physio has been to you, he's not going to work for free either. No, and I think he's been more than patient with the club as well. I know, like Barry down there, he's got a lot of time for the club. He loves the club. He's been involved for a number of years now. But again, there comes a time where people have to say, you know, like, again, he's a professional at the end of the day, and he's another person who's probably along with the rest of the club behind on payment and stuff like that. So it's something that is going on down there. But again, yeah, no, I couldn't expect him as a professional even to be working for nothing with it either, you know. He's the same as any other player, really. Yeah, and I sent an email on Tuesday and a couple of emails again on Wednesday morning to a few of the parties involved in this to try and get some comment. And I'm just going to read the email out to you now. It says, "Evening all, Limerick FC player Sean Russell will be on our League of Ireland podcast tomorrow, Wednesday, in relation to issues surrounding the payment of a serious operation on his knee, as Limerick failed to organise with the hospital the sports surgery clinic before the operation, and how a large portion of the bill remains outstanding, over €4,000 as of today, and also late expenses which he is yet to lodge, and a cheque that was given to him over the weekend. Can Limerick FC tell me why they did not cover his operation, medical and physio costs as a first team player at the club, and why did their insurance not cover this? As he arrived at the hospital, he thought this would have been sorted. Has Sean been paid his wages? And in Sean's case, he's actually expenses that Sean gets as an amateur. Has he been paid those in full? Will the hospital be paid in full for the operation? If so, when? And at the moment they're asking him and his family to pay the outstanding amount, which the family are unable to afford. I understand Sean's dad Martin has also written to Rhea Walsh, the interim CEO of the FAI. That email was sent to Limerick Football Club, to the Limerick Media Department as per their website, the PFAI, the FAI Media email, Fran Gavin, the FAI Competitions Director, and also Rhea Walsh, the interim CEO of the FAI. I said at the end we would appreciate replies from all of the above parties, please. And I'm just looking in my email here. No reply. I did get a phone call from Steve McGuinness from the PFAI, and he outlined the reasons, as I've explained, that Sean is an amateur and not a professional, and how the PFAI can't help him. And I understand Stephen did meet the Limerick players last week in relation to outstanding monies owed, and we saw last year at Limerick and at Bray that the PFAI did actually ask the players if they wanted to vote for strike action. Now I understand there's only a small number of professionals at Limerick, the others are amateurs. They can't strike, but they could support a strike for the professionals. So that's where that is at the moment. But no reply from anybody, and you've been trying to kind of speak to the club yourself, and you haven't had too many answers. No, there's not been a lot of communication towards me, even since the injury happened. As I said, physio and the manager have been in contact with me to see how I'm doing and stuff like that. But outside of that, obviously the players have been supportive as well. But outside of that, there hasn't been a lot of communication. So I'm a bit left in the dark, really, with regards to what's going to happen. I mean, as I said to you, I've to undergo 2 surgeries, and the first one is obviously done, but the recovery period really starts after the ACL surgery, which will probably be a period of 9 months. So the longer it goes without that, the longer my rehab is delayed. So you're kind of looking into probably early pre-season and stuff like that. Not being back in time for that now is what I'm probably worried about. And again, this is all an if, you know, like this. I'm well aware that the injury is a bad injury, and it will be difficult to get back. But at the moment, I'm awaiting my next consultation and surgery, and at the moment that's just it's unsure at the moment. So that's kind of just wait and see for me at this moment in time, which isn't ideal, you know. So the words appalling player welfare come to mind here for you. For the next amateur player in the league, and it might not be at Limerick, it might be somewhere else, that gets injured and the club are unable to pay for the operation, and we've spoken about the insurance and how that kind of works, and your welfare is being totally disrespected by anybody who you're trying to get you to give you help. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you've probably hit the nail on the head there. It's player welfare, you know. This is the bigger picture, you know.
it's happened to me at this club, and I really would hate to see it happen to anyone else. The league is a good league, and most of the players in there aren't on massive money, particularly in the league I'm playing in the first division, and I think player welfare should be paramount to that. If you're playing in the league, you should be looked after if something happens to you representing the clubs, and unfortunately in my case it hasn't, and I've been probably let down by the club, which again is unfortunate.
How does that kind of make you feel from a mental point of view when you're trying to get over the scars, not just the physical scars of the injury and the operation, but the mental scars of the fact that the doctors have told you how serious this injury could be for your career and also your life moving forward? And to add to all of that, you've stress about the finances of it, and you've stress about wondering is the next operation, which is obviously very important, if that's going to happen, and if so, when.
Yeah, it's difficult. I've got a lot of close friends in football as well that have had similar enough injuries that I've spoken to, and the support I've received from family and friends has been brilliant. It's really helped. But when you play football and you grow up playing football and you're training every day, and you have it's when you get an injury like this and you're not sure if you're going to get back doing it, it's difficult, and you're also going through the physical pain of the rehab, and when it's happened, it is hard. But the overload of stress on top of that for me at the moment has just made it extra difficult, really. From being in the clinic, sitting outside the office, waiting to hear if they were going to take me in or not for surgery was difficult, and it was very stressful. And then having to go in and undergo the surgery is also a stressful time. It's not easy undergoing the surgery when you know the seriousness of it, and it has really added to it. I think even if you're looked after, it is a tough time, but it's been very stressful for me.
So what happens next?
I'm trying to do my best to find out, but at the moment it's just one session a week with the physio, do my own rehab work at home, and wait to hear back from the club or the clinic. And again, realistically, probably when I first talked to the surgeon, I was probably due to go back in for my second surgery probably this week or even last week. I haven't been back for a consultation since my previous surgery because obviously the payments are outstanding, which I understand, and that's it at the moment for me. It's just trying to do what I can for my knee, and I'm trying to stay as positive I can with it and do what I can. I'm doing my own sessions each day at home, seeing the physio once a week, but it is tough, not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, and myself and Sean as well have been in contact for the last probably 3 weeks in terms of the opportunity to highlight this, and Sean has tried his very best to speak to the club and trying in contact with the FAI, and his dad Martin has been trying to help him too, and unfortunately they haven't got the answers they need, which is why Sean has decided to go public and speak to us, and this is the only media organisation he's spoken to, and that wasn't a decision that Sean took lightly, but it was one that you felt you had to make, and hopefully once this interview goes up and people hear about the situation, it might just put some pressure on.
Yeah, again, look, listen, I just want to highlight the fact that it really is the player welfare thing. Going back to it, it should be paramount in the league. You should be looked after if you do suffer an injury like that, and it is the reality of the league that we're in at the moment. Whether it be the club not following up on it, or the governing body, the FAI, that's given them the licences at the start of the year for this to happen a month into the season, it's not ideal, So at the moment, it's just, for me, it's neither the club nor the governing body want to take any accountability for what's going to happen next, and it is difficult. And as you said before, because of the fact that I am on an amateur form, which I would imagine the majority of our league in the first division probably are on, you are at risk now, probably, if you do step out and get injured. Some clubs will look after their players. I'm not saying it's going to happen to every amateur player, but there will be times, and it's me at the moment, and hopefully we can prevent it from happening to someone else in the future, but it is just something that I want to highlight, because at the start of the season it's not something I was aware of, and now I am, obviously, and I've paid the price, but I do want to highlight it, and hopefully we can prevent it from happening to anyone else that finds himself in my position.
Yeah, and Limerick released a statement earlier in the week as well to confirm ongoing talks about a takeover for the club. And again, you're looking at the FAI involvement in sanctioning a takeover, and if they're going to look into Sean's story and others to find out what monies are owed from expenses, from wages, and also for operation costs and physio costs and stuff like that. And if that takeover is going to happen, there needs to be everything that's owed needs to be paid before anything like that happens. The statement on the Limerick FC website read, the club can confirm that we're at an advanced stage of negotiations with an investment group who we've been talking to since last July. The group have a firm business plan and strategy in place. We share their vision, values and core objectives for the club. We had hoped to make a formal announcement this week. However, some additional time is required for legal documents to be finalised. This is due to be the main parties involved. Sorry, I'll read that again. This is due to one of the main parties involved being away on other business matters. Sean Connor has been representing the investors at the club this week and have been preparing the ground for the procedural perspective to allow this strategy to be implemented. Sean has significant experience in the League of Ireland, and we look forward to both working with him and the completion of his deal in the coming days. It will bring certainty and structure to the club's affairs and will alleviate the current stresses around the club. We believe that the future of the club is bright. The new investors' belief is Limerick FC and in the city of Limerick. So a couple of bits I want to take there, Sean. Finally, we share their vision and values. So values is an interesting one given your scenario, and that the takeover will alleviate the current stresses around the club. And you could use both of those phrases very much in your situation.
Yeah, you could do, yeah. And again, you know, when the investment comes on board, it's great because the club needs investment. There's no doubt about that. But you know, if someone wants to come on board and investment's there and the club can move forward, it would be great for the club. But again, it's just, you know, from my point of view, none of that's been confirmed yet, and I'm probably in a position where time is kind of against me at the moment as well. So if that does happen, it's a good thing. But as I said, now I'm just fully focused on my own injury and getting that resolved as quick as I can.
And lastly, I'm sure people listening and watching might be wondering in terms of, you know, some people have their own health insurance from like a private point of view. Is that something you might have to explore eventually, or are you just going to wait and say the club owes this, I'm paying nothing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to explore every avenue, you know, as it unfolds. But it's been a difficult few weeks. Like, I mean, I was restricted to movement and stuff like that for the first couple of weeks after surgery. I've just started back full-time work. I'm trying to organise everything that's going outside. So I will probably look at having a look at all the avenues that are there. But as I said, it's still early days for me. But it's not something that I've looked at yet. But yeah, I think it probably will be something that I will have to look at because at the moment I'm not really receiving any answers. So, you know. Yeah,
my advice would be stand firm, and you've done, you know, this is even a mad thing to say, you've done nothing wrong in this scenario, and hopefully it'll be resolved soon. And the best of luck with the next surgery, the rehab. I'm looking forward to seeing you back in the studio next year when you're back in the pitch. Sean Russell, thanks a million.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Jay.